Welcome to the deep dive. Today, well, we're diving into something a lot of you are thinking about, managing appetite.
Right. Specifically looking at ways other than prescription meds, like Ozempic.
Exactly. We looked into some interesting sources, Dr. Boz, for one, to find strategies that are more accessible, maybe cheaper.
And importantly, ones that hopefully don't mess with your lean muscle mass, which can be a concern with some medications.
Yeah, good point. So the goal is really to explore practical alternatives.
And we landed on three main things that kept coming up. Good old black coffee, something called salt rocks.
Which sounds intriguing.
It does. And thirdly, ketones, how you can get them working for you, either through supplements or things like MCT oil.
Okay, let's start with coffee. Super familiar, right? People have been drinking it for, what, millennia?
Over 2,000 years, yeah. It's not just a habit. There's actual science behind it for appetite control.
Right, I've heard it boosts metabolism.
It does. Boosts metabolism, increases fat burning, and, suppresses appetite. That's pretty well documented.
Wasn't there a recent study on that?
Yeah, a 2023 study found that higher levels of caffeine in the blood were linked not just to feeling less hungry, but also a lower risk of type 2 diabetes.
Wow, okay. But there's a catch, isn't there?
Always a catch. Yes, Dr. Boz really stresses this. It has to be black coffee.
No cream, no sugar?
Nope, nothing added,
Yeah.
just the coffee itself. Otherwise, you're adding calories and sugar, which kind of defeats the purpose of appetite suppression.
Makes total sense. Okay, so black coffee is one tool. What about these? Salt socks. That sounds less conventional.
It does. This came up mostly in the context of fasting. When you first start fasting or cutting way back on sugar.
Oh yeah, the cravings can be intense.
Yeah,
Especially for sweet stuff.
exactly. So the salt rock hack, as it's sometimes called, is basically instead of giving into that sweet craving, you use a salt rock.
Like lick a piece of salt.
Pretty much. Or just hold it in your mouth. The idea is the strong, salty taste kind of distracts or satisfies your taste buds.
Huh. A sensory trick, almost.
Yeah, and maybe, just maybe, it helps replenish some minerals you might be low on as your body adjusts. But it's mainly about writing out that initial intense sugar craving without actually consuming sugar.
Interesting. A way to handle those early fasting hurdles.
Okay.
But then our sources mentioned another kind of craving during fasting. Not just for sweets.
Right. This one's more about an energy deficit. So when you're fasting, your blood sugar drops.
Okay.
But it takes a little while for your liver to really start pumping out enough ketones to use for fuel instead.
So there's a gap.
Exactly. And in that gap, you can feel this deep hunger, like your body's screaming for energy. And the salt rock trick probably won't help much with that feeling.
Okay, so that's where ketones come in.
Yeah.
As the alternative fuel.
Precisely. Your liver makes them from fat when glucose isn't readily available. They're a perfectly good fuel source for your brain and body.
So how do we leverage ketones for appetite control then? Sounds like there are different approaches.
There are. You've got exogenous ketones. Those are supplements you can drink. They give you a quick, pretty rapid spike in ketone levels.
And that helps with hunger.
Yes, studies show they can suppress ghrelin.
The hunger hormone.
That's the one. But the effect from these supplements can be kind of fast and fleeting, doesn't last all day.
Right. So what's the other option? You mentioned MCT oil.
Yeah, medium-chain triglycerides. This is more about encouraging your own body to make ketones. If you take MCT oil, say, before you start fasting, it gives your liver an easy-to-use fat source to kickstart its own ketone production. It's like a nudge.
So it's less about adding ketones directly, more about stimulating your internal production.
Exactly. And there's this cool concept, ketones beget ketones. Meaning, when your ketone levels are already a bit elevated, it actually signals your liver to keep making more. It creates a kind of positive feedback loop.
So MCT oil could lead to more sustained ketone production over time.
That's the idea. You can almost think of it as like training wheels for your mitochondria, the energy factories in your cells. You're training them to get better at using fat and producing ketones.
And that sustained ketone production naturally helps manage appetite longer term.
Right. It leads to more stable energy and less of those energy dip cravings.
Okay, this is great. Let's quickly recap then. We've got 3 accessible options here.
Yep. First, black coffee leverages caffeine's known effects on metabolism and appetite suppression. Simple, but effective if you stick to black.
Right. Second, the salt rock hack. Kind of a surprising tool, mostly for tackling those initial sharp sugar cravings when you start fasting.
More of a specific situation tool, yeah. And third, ketones. You can get a quick hit with exogenous supplements,
Or play the longer game with MCT oil, encouraging your body to produce its own ketones more efficiently.
which ultimately helps manage those deeper energy-related hunger pangs and provides more stable appetite control.
And crucially, these are all things people can explore without needing a prescription, and generally, they're much more cost-effective.
Definitely points worth considering.
So for you listening, maybe think about where you struggle most. Is it general appetite, those first few hours of fasting, or deeper energy dips? Perhaps one of these strategies, the black coffee, the salt rock, maybe trying some MCT oil, could be a useful first step for you to experiment with and just understand your body's signals a bit better.
Yeah, definitely food for thought. Or perhaps less need for food for thought.
Good one.
Mhm.
Worth considering on your own journey.